Well, hello everyone. My name is John Cottrell. This is Soft Flow. This is a 60-minute gentle yoga practice. So welcome. Glad you can be here. As you can see, I'm sitting. We're going to start in a seated position for our practice like we always do. But our prompts today, just the general things that we like to have for our soft flow practice. You'll want a blanket or something soft because there will be some kneeling involved, and you'll want something soft to kneel on. We're also going to be on our hands and knees, and so just that softness to protect your wrists is always a good idea too. And then maybe a couple of blocks or something that's stackable, like a couple of books will work just fine for what we're going to be doing today. Just a brief explanation about what we do in this gentle yoga practice is that it's a great class for people who haven't done yoga for a long time or have never done yoga before. What I like to do is try to slow things down and break things down in a way where you're going to have a benefit. You're going to feel really good after your practice. And another specialty about the class as well is that you don't have to force yourself or go too fast or push yourself into any yoga pose. We like to kind of lighten things up. As you see, when I break down the poses and move through these sequences, we take our time and we do a lot of variations and modifications of poses. So that's what you can be looking forward to in this practice. So one of the things that we're going to be focusing on in our class today are deep lunges, deep lunges. We're going to be holding some lunging postures, which are great for kind of the front part of the body, mainly your legs, like your hip flexors and kind of the lower portion of your abs down here. And that's especially great if you find yourself sitting quite a bit most of the day. You know, in a sitting position, we can get pretty tight and bound up in this section of the body, especially the thighs, hip flexors, and our low bellies. And so this is kind of a counter pose to that, just to stretch things out. All righty, so that's our intention. So deep lunges today. Okay, so we like to start in seated. So I invite you to come to a comfortable seat on your mat. Feel free to sit on your blanket or even a pillow or a bolster. I've got a bolster here, which is nice for your Shavasana practice or when you're lying down at the end of your practice. Just want to be comfortable. You're welcome to cross your legs if that feels good for you, or even extend your legs, or even just one leg if that feels better for you. And once you're here, I invite you to take a couple of deep breaths. You might breathe in fully and deeply through your nose, and then exhale through your nose or even through your mouth. You might breathe out with a sigh. That nice release. Good. Do that one more time. And then just settle in. You might already begin to feel some relaxation show up in your body, some release. And then just continue with slow, deep breaths. You want to breathe in a way where you can hear your breath and feel your breath. And one way to feel your breath is by breathing deeply. So when you breathe in, you might feel your lungs expand. That nice fullness. Then as you exhale, we're going to add a sensation of actually contracting the abdominal muscles, not too strongly. You're really just going to feel like you're pulling your belly button in towards your spine. Again, very lightly, just awareness of this portion of your body. Again, an inhale, you might feel yourself sit up a little taller, breath rising to fill up your lungs. Then your exhale, engaging your belly or abdominal muscles. We call this the abdominal lock. So it's just a wonderful way to bring our focus to the here and now, be more mindful and connected. You're welcome to close your eyes, or if you have your eyes open, just take a soft gaze forward or even downward at the ground. Let's hold for a few more breaths. Slow, deep breaths. Listening to the sound of your breath. Noticing how your body is responding to your breath. Good. Go ahead and take 3 more breaths like this, just holding in stillness, paying attention to the sound and feeling of your breathing. We're going to add a very simple movement. I call this our moving meditation. So you can join me. Inhale, extend your arms out across the room, and then all the way up as you complete your in-breath, reaching high. Then exhale and extend your arms out, reaching across the room, exhaling until you finish, and bring your hands back down by your side. Do that again. Inhale, reach out, and all the way up. Good effort, like you're stretching to reach for something in the sky. Exhale, extend, and reach outward, like you're going to touch the walls on either side of you, and then back down by your side. Go ahead and continue breathing and moving at your own pace. So you might be a little slower than me, or you might be a little faster than me. That's okay. Just go at your own breath pace. This nice, gentle flow of the body, moving with breath. That's really what yoga, at least the moving action of yoga, is all about. Just moving with breath or feeling like the breath is moving you. Again, a nice extension through your arms, energy in your hands and fingers, reaching out with some effort. It feels like a stretch. There's an energy in the arms that you're generating. As you reach up into the air, you might feel a lengthening through the sides of your body. And again, when you exhale, don't forget to draw your navel inward towards your spine, keeping that light contraction of your abdominal muscles. Go ahead and finish the breath that you're on right now, and then take 2 more breaths. And when you're complete, you can just rest your arms down by your side. You can even just let your hands rest in your lap or on your legs here. And notice how there's now a relaxation showing up in your shoulders, maybe even in your neck. And just take another breath or 2 right here. Still seated, just bring your hands behind you like so. You might be on your fingertips. You can also lean back all the way onto your palms, just whatever feels best for your wrists and hands. So hands behind you, even pull your shoulders back a bit so you can really feel this expansiveness and opening through your chest. And then you're going to tip your chin up just a little bit like this. Here's in a seated, mild back bend. When you inhale, just press into the ground with your hands or fingertips. Again, feel the breath rising to fill up your lungs. It'll be even more expansive, perhaps, a stretch quality that reaches across your chest from shoulder to shoulder. Again, as you exhale, draw navel in towards spine. You may feel more sensation, more energy arise in your body with this posture and breathing effort. Breathe in. Fill up your lungs. Exhale, draw belly in. And we're adding another sensation. If you're able, squeeze your shoulder blades together behind you, or just feel like your shoulders are really pulling back and together towards your spine. Again, don't try to force this. Just notice that feeling. Arms behind you, shoulders drawing in towards center line. Deep breaths. Take 3 more breaths. After your 3rd breath, just lower your chin to relax your neck. Walk your hands towards yourself so you can sit up tall. And again, you can just let your hands rest in your lap. Everything comes back to neutral, more relaxed. Find stillness, take a couple of breaths. So that was our back bend motion. Now we like to take a forward fold motion. Here, if your legs are crossed, we're going to uncross the legs and reposition them. You might press the soles or just have the soles of your feet touch. Now for here, you draw the heels in closely if that feels okay. You want to be mindful of how this feels on your knees. If that doesn't feel great on your knee joints, then you can slide your feet forward. That should take some of the pressure off. Now the legs right here don't have to touch the ground. This is where your blocks or pillows or books might come in handy. You can just tuck the blocks underneath you so your legs rest right there on those props. And then just hold on to your shins or ankles. You want to inhale to sit up as tall as can be. As you exhale, draw belly in and move. Just hinge forward just a little bit from the hips, leading with your heart and chin. And if you can see me, notice I did not move very far. It's just a slight angle of my upper body. Now, wherever you are, you can just stay right there. Or you might go a little deeper, which is what I'm going to do. Let's inhale, more extension through your spine at this angle. Exhale, pull belly in, really for support as you hinge forward a tiny bit more. Now, I'm going to stay here. I know I can go farther down, but going back to our intention of this class, we don't have to go far. We don't have to push or force our bodies. Just arrive at a place where you start to notice change or shift or sensation. I'm noticing a stretch in my inner thighs. It's mild, but it feels good. And I know I can hold here for a good period of time. And that's where you kind of want to be. Not in a place where you feel strained or pushed or forced, because that raises anxiety in the body and more tension in the body. So you can hold right here, noticing that natural stretch occurring in the inner thighs. How about 3 more breaths? After the third breath, just go ahead and rise back up into your seated nice and tall. We're going to do one more seated position here. First, I'm going to bring the knees up like this. Feet are just on the floor. You can even be on your heels, which is perfect. I'm going to move my blocks out of the way. We're going to do a version of boat pose. Boat. Now, boat really emphasizes strength in the core, but we're going to modify the posture. So again, with knees bent, heels on the ground, flex your feet. Flexing the feet in many poses just energizes the legs. I'm going to step my heels forward a little bit. I'm going to hold on under the knees here and use that as leverage to help sit up nice and tall, like so. I'm straight up and down at the moment. Then exhale, engage the belly, drawing navel to spine, and then start to lean back, trying to maintain an extended spine. You can lean back as far as you want, but again, you don't have to go back very far. The farther you go back, the more tension you'll create in your belly or in those ab muscles. So this is going to be just right for me. I know I can go further, but I know I can hold this for a longer period of time because there's less tension. So maybe you can join me here. And as we're holding it, see if you can hold this a little bit longer. We're obviously in a seated position, okay? And you may not really feel it or notice it, but we are engaging kind of the thighs and the low belly, okay, in this section of the body. And that's what happens in a seated position. Once we get into our lunges, we're going to be opening all this back up, stretching it out. Okay, here we're just adding a little bit of strength. All right, one more breath in and out. Still holding onto your legs, just lift yourself back up and you can just relax your body. Okay, we're going to transition to our hands and knees. So just carefully manipulate your body, swinging the legs back behind you, coming to hands and knees. And this is where you might want to use your soft blanket for support for your hands and knees. So we're going to form a little tabletop here. And just for the awareness of your wrists, because if you can see here, my arms straight up and down, my shoulders are stacked over the wrists. That's a lot of pressure potentially on the wrist. If that becomes an issue for you, you can always just sit back to get off of your hands if you need to, or even step your hands forward. So we're at a less of that forced angle, okay? Which is where I'm going to be for this. Hands forward. So we're going to do 2 poses, cat and cow. Starts with cow, it's an inhale. We're going to look up or look forward and arch the back a little bit. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm arching my back. It's a little back bend feel. And exhale, tuck the tailbone underneath as you pull your belly button up towards your spine, round your back and tuck chin in towards chest. That's cat. Inhale, reverse it. Tip the pelvis back, creating that back bend. Your belly will drop, heart opens, look forward. Exhale, round it out. Go at your own pace. Just follow your own breathing. At any time, you can always rest, maybe get off the hands if that's too much pressure on the wrists. You're also invited to create different motions here. This is cat and cow. It just kind of moves forward and back in these little back bend and rounded sensations in the spine. But feel free to add your hips. For example, maybe just circling your hips, making circles with your hips. Something like this, going clockwise and then counterclockwise. A stretch that I like to do is come back up to neutral, where my hips are right over my knees, even bring my knees in a little closer towards each other, and then lean one hip out to one side. And I feel a stretch kind of down through the outer portion of the hip, and then the other. Okay, because I tend to get tight in those areas, and so I really like this particular stretch. And since we're kind of focusing on the legs, specifically the hip flexors, you may want to do something like this. So cat and cow initially, and then any other movement of the body that feels good since we're on our hands and knees. The cat and cow flow right here really is a nice release for your spine and your hips. Go ahead and finish the breath that you're on and take 2 more. And then pause in a neutral position. We'll just call this a tabletop posture. Just hold. Take a couple breaths. Just return to the awareness of your own breathing. And then we're finished with that. If you're using a blanket or some prop to protect your knees and wrists, let's crawl off the blanket and just set the prop off to the side. Come back to hands and knees. Now, if your hands are directly underneath your shoulders, step your hands forward now so they're out from underneath your shoulders. And at the same time, spread out your fingers pretty wide here. You might feel a stretch between each finger. And then lean into your hands or press your palms firmly into the ground so they go flat. It's just a way of stretching your hands. It also brings energy to your arms so they stay straight and strong. Tuck your toes behind you. You'll inhale to cow, so you'll look forward, create a little back bend. Exhale, round it into cat. Hold cat pose. From here, lift your knees off the ground, send your hips up and back, and this will guide you into downward facing dog. Once you've lifted your hips into the air, you might need to adjust your feet just a little bit so you're a little bit more stable. Make sure your hands are still pressing strongly into the ground. Relax your head, give it a little shake, and then we're going to come out of the pose. Maybe you're looking straight down at the mat. Go ahead and walk up into that space. You might end up right in the center of your mat with your feet. Your feet are flat on the ground. Then, with your back rounded, that's okay if your back is rounded, you're going to inhale, slide your hands up to your shins, knees, or even your thighs to extend your spine so you're flat like a table. Then exhale, fold a little bit down. Let's do that again. Inhale, slide hands up the legs until you feel like you're horizontal to the ground. Exhale, fold. And if you can, maybe bend the knees a little bit more and round your back more to go a little deeper. One more time, same exact thing. Inhale, slide hands up to shins, knees, or thighs, extending spine, flat back. Exhale, fold. Just bend your knees more, maybe touching your toes, but you never need to. And if you're able, relax your whole upper body. Let your head go loose, shake it out a little bit. Even feel free to make circles with your shoulders. And if you want to, a little sway with the whole upper body, left, then right, just back and forth. Just some release in the low back, perhaps. Okay, we're going to get ready to stand from this deep forward fold. First, shift your weight back into your heels, bend your knees, and feel like you're going to sit down into a low chair. Look out in front of you. This should free up your hands a little bit Take them out to the side. As you inhale, press your feet firmly into the ground. That gives you energy in your legs so you can stand up all the way. Reach your hands, yes, up into the sky. Stretch and exhale, bring your arms down by your side like so. So we end up in mountain pose, our standing position right here. Take a moment just to circle your shoulders. Again, circle them backwards, circle them forward. If you want to add a little neck release, maybe side to side, ear to shoulder, and even nodding yes. Okay, you can even shake head no, just left to right like that. Just a little neck stretch. Okay, we're gonna do that same forward fold and come back up. Just one time down and up. Back to mountain pose. Here we go. Inhale, reach high, big stretch like you're gonna touch the ceiling. Exhale, spread your wings, arms out to the side. Bend your knees and sit back into an imaginary chair. Let your chest come down towards shoulders. I'm sorry, towards your thighs. Sorry about that. Hands come down towards the ground. Let your head relax. Inhale, slide your hands up the legs enough until your torso is parallel to the ground. Exhale, fold to an appropriate fold that feels good. Immediately shift your weight into your heels, bend your knees, feel like you're going to sit down, look forward, spread your wings again, drive heels into the floor, then inhale to stand up tall, finish the breath in, reach high, exhale, arms back down by your side. Here we'll just hold in stillness. Take a couple of deep breaths. Very nice. All right, we're going to come back to mountain pose. We're going to do a modification of stepping into a lunge. We're going to do a mild high lunge because later in the practice, we're going to be doing the deep lunge, and that is our focus for the day. Okay, but first, a mild standing high lunge. Follow me. So we're in mountain pose. Put a slight bend in your knees. Keep that bend. Shift your weight into your right foot, okay? Press firmly into the ground with the right foot. And then just start stepping as many steps as you need to that left foot back until you're kind of balancing on your big toe. Stay just like this. Everything is still facing forward, okay? And then just set that heel down, okay? Behind you. Actually, no, we're going to stay... Pardon me, we're going to keep the heel lifted, but you're on your toes. Everything's still facing forward. Nice and tall here, perpendicular to the ground. Then inhale, take arms up into the air. So this is our high lunge variation. So the difference between this pose and Warrior One is that we're on our toes behind us. The heel is lifted. You can see that. Warrior One is when that whole foot's on the ground like that. Okay, so you're on your toes. You'll feel that little stretch in the toes. Reach high, but you don't necessarily need to lunge low. You're already in a lunge, and this is as far as we're going to take this. We're already beginning to get a little bit of a lengthening through this front left leg because the arms are extended up and this left leg is reaching back. We are going to get deeper into that posture later. Now we're going to hinge forward, start putting pressure and weight into the front foot so you can just push off those back toes, step together with the feet, stand up tall, reach high with both arms, exhale, arms down by your side. Take a couple breaths. You can even shake that out if you'd like to. Okay, so a very simple lunging action, just stepping a foot back. All right, other side. Softness in the knees, keep the slight bend, shift weight into left foot. Strong connection, and then just start stepping the right foot back until you're just easily balanced on your big toe back there. And then press into the balls of the foot. That's a better instruction, I think. Just the balls of the foot. So the right heel is still lifted. Everything is square and facing forward. We're really centered here, right in the hips. Then inhale, take both arms up into the air. We're going to hold this for several breaths. Reaching with some good energy, not necessarily lunging deeply, just kind of in this natural lunge. Feel a little stretch in the right set of toes, right heels lifted off the ground. Again, everything facing forward. As you reach high, we're getting a little bit of a lengthening quality. It might be subtle in that right hip flexor belt line area. Okay, start to hinge forward, getting some weight into the left foot, push off those back toes to step the feet together. Stand up tall, reach high, exhale, arms down by your side. If you need to, shake out your shoulders. Even your hands and wrists and fingers here too. It's a lot of energy of just keeping your arms up in the air. Okay, let's flow. Let's break it down. Together, inhale, reach into the sky. Exhale, spread your wings, bend your knees, and sit back into your imaginary chair. We're just going back to that forward fold. Take your time. The back will round, look down, hands will come down, maybe touch toes. Inhale, slide your hands up the legs to extend your spine. We're moving on from here. As we exhale, bend the knees a whole lot. Let the back round enough until you can bring both hands, your palms, to the ground. So you can start stepping the feet back, all the way back to the back end of your mat until you draw a straight line in your body. This is plank pose. Let's breathe in. This is a good strength posture. As you exhale, bend your knees like you're about to kneel down onto the ground, but instead lift your hips into the air. Adjust your feet. Step forward a little bit. You might even take the feet a little wider. Spread out your fingers and press firmly into the ground to get that good energy in your hands and arms. Keep the bend in the knees. This will keep your hips high and your spine straight. From here, we'll inhale, extend right leg up, reaching through your toes towards the wall behind you. It doesn't have to lift high. Exhale, bend that right knee in the air. Bring right knee in towards chest or your chin, shifting your upper body forward so your shoulders are over your wrists, and then just set your right set of toes onto the ground. Again, it's just the balls of the foot, heel lifted. And then just gently set the left knee onto the ground. We're going to reach back and pick up the right foot just to place it up higher on the mat here. We're going to re-lift the left knee. We're going to runner's lunge. Now, if your weight is way forward like mine is, that means weight is in the hands, but we need to find balance. So we're pulling the hips back enough until we find center of gravity, which is the left hip bone, okay? This should allow you to rise up very easily, hopefully, to your fingertips, or take the hands off the ground completely, but still feel balanced right where you are. But we are going to bring hands to thigh, press hands into your right thigh to lift upper body to this 45-degree angle, which should allow you to extend the spine. Notice how that back heel is still lifted, okay, like that earlier pose, okay? Squeezing inner thighs together like you're holding onto a block between your knees. That should bring some energy to the legs. We're going to sweep the arms out to the side and up into the air until we're perpendicular to the floor. Now, this is the second version of that high lunge. We did a first version when the feet were a little bit closer together. This is second version. There's going to be a third version later. All right, now maybe more of a stretch quality in this left hip flexor. Okay, we're going to lift up a little bit, taking away some of that pressure so you can actually turn this whole left leg, bring that left heel to the ground, plant it into the ground, turn your upper body to the left side of the room, arms come down to parallel. Warrior two position right here. Then reach out with the right hand like you're going to reach for something out in front of you, but maybe up on a shelf like this. So that angles the upper half of the body. And then we're going to rotate the arms. Your right hand will come down, left hand will reach up. This is side angle pose. Now you might feel this in the right inner thigh, right in here. Okay, so the high lunge got into the left hip flexor, the front portion of the leg. The sideways position gets into the inner thigh. Let's continue. Breathe in, reach high and low with the arms. Exhale, turn your torso towards the floor. Carefully bend to bring your hands to the ground. Rise up onto your tiptoes behind you. We're in that runner's lunge again. Press hands firmly into the ground, strongly, so you can slide or step the right foot back. It's return to plank pose. Let's take a little break. You're going to bring knees to the floor. If you can, sit back briefly in hero pose. Hopefully, we'll try not to stay here too long. We're getting a little lengthening through this ankle area, stretches the knee area, but also just to get a break off the hands. But we're not going to stay here too long because this can be a little uncomfortable for the ankles and knees. So let's bring the hands back out, spread out your fingers. So look at your hands, spread out your fingers, put weight into the hands, tuck your toes, lift your knees and hips, return to down dog.
When you're ready, extend left leg up into the air behind you. Reach back through your toes. When you exhale, bend that left knee. Bring it in towards your chest or chin as you shift your whole upper body forward until your shoulders are aligned over your wrists. Set the left set of toes on the ground, and then set your right knee gently on the ground. This should allow you to literally pick up this left foot and put it up higher on your mat. Then, lifting right knee, we're in our runner's lunge. Weight might be forward. We need to pull the hips back towards the back end of the mat until we find center of gravity. So you can easily rise to fingertips. That just means there's no weight on the hands. And then hands up to your thigh. Push into the thigh to help lift yourself up at 45 degrees. So at an angle like this, getting a good extension through the torso. Squeeze the inner thighs or your legs together like you're holding on to a block between your knees to energize the legs. Sweep your arms out and up into the air as you now become perpendicular to the ground or just straight up and down. And there's our high lunge. Notice what's happening on that right leg. Right leg is behind us, right hip flexor or just that front portion of the thigh, the belt line, just above the belt line, that's where it might be getting that lengthening. Now we're going to lift up a little bit, pivot or turn right heel to the floor. You'll turn sideways, arms will come down to parallel. This is Warrior Two. Check in with alignment, just be sure your left knee is still pointing directly forward, just as your left set of toes are. Reach for something out and up on a shelf with this left hand, angled upper body. Rotate your arms, left hand down, right hand up. Hold for several breaths. Good reaching action. So these aren't arbitrary motions. We're reaching. Reach down with the left hand. Reach up with the right hand. It just keeps the energy circulating through the body. Let's breathe in. Exhale, we'll turn towards the floor. Just look down, carefully fold, bring your hands to the ground. Rise up onto tiptoes behind you. There's our runner's lunge. Press into the mat with the hands so you can slide your left foot back. Plank, hold for a second, and another second for strength. We'll bring knees to the floor. Let's take child's pose here. So once you're on hands and knees, take your knees a little wider. So they're out from underneath your hips, just out to the side a little bit. It just kind of creates a little pocket right here in your front body. So you can maybe sit back and down here. Now, if you can't get the knees to bend like this and the hips don't make it all the way down to the heels, that's okay. You can stay up much higher, maybe something like this. Then I like to bring in a big pillow or a cushion and then just kind of lower my upper body down like this. This works just fine. So just a little quick rest. Returning to the awareness and sensation of your breath. Go ahead and take some deep breaths in your child's pose. We're going to get ready for some of those deep lunges. So we've done 2 versions already. They were standing versions. The deeper ones are going to be more kneeling versions. Take 3 more breaths in child's pose. Then slowly making your way back up. If you're using some pillows, just move those to the side. Okay, and here you might want to bring in your blocks, just have those maybe out in front, handy, and then you'll want something for your knees. I'm just going to bring that blanket back in. I'm just going to kind of run it across my mat like so, just in the center of the mat. Should be actually kind of back a little bit. And then kneel on it. Just get your knees up onto the blanket here. And once you're on the blanket, just lift up nice and high, like that. Okay. So when I actually get my blocks, I think they need to be on the left side. So move your blocks or books, whatever you have, over on the left side of your mat. So we're nice and tall here. I'm leaning a little bit into my left knee. If you need the floor just to balance yourself or a stacked block, something like this, because we're going to step the right foot forward, just like that. Okay? So we've formed 2 right angles, right leg
and left leg. So right angles. But this isn't our beginning position. We need to lean back a little bit, taking some of the weight off this front foot and then wiggle that right foot forward. Okay, so no more right angle there. And then just place your hands on your thigh. Press gently into the thigh just for leverage so you can get nice and tall up top. That's our in-breath. And our exhale is a movement of the hips forward. And you can see when you move forward, this knee shifts, so it's now restacked over that ankle or heel. I'll move the block so you can see that right there. And again, we're putting pressure here or sensation in the stretch of the upper thigh, hip flexor, belt line, low belly region. Now you can stay just like this, okay? If you can be nice and tall or leaning back, but that might put a little too much tension in the low back. To release that, just lean forward. Maybe your forearms just here, resting on your thigh. Again, this can be the end of the pose. Remember, we don't have to push or force our bodies. If you can hold this for a while, hold it. If you want to go a little deeper, you're welcome to do so. And I'm going to go a little deeper. Okay, what I need to do is kind of pull out of the pose a little bit because I'm going to move my right foot farther forward and then lunge a little deeper. The blocks come in handy because I can bring my left hand to this block just for extra stability and balance. This is about as far as I'm going to take this. You could go deeper. In another style of yoga class, you might bend your elbow and bring your arm down to the blocks or even all the way down to the ground. But for our soft flow, gentle practice, let's keep it mild so that we can hold this for another few breaths. If you're able to really kind of let go, kind of let your hips go heavy and really sink into that. Try that. You can always back out of it. If it becomes too much, you can always back out of that sensation anytime a pose like this one gets a little bit too much. Okay, I can start to feel that tension rising that's not as comfortable. So I'm going to back out just a little bit. Because I can feel the tension starting to rise in my body, which raises anxiety in the body. And maybe for this type of practice, we want to avoid that. All right, so this is our deep lunge. This is our featured pose. A long time holding this position. Okay, let's take 3 more breaths. You might be already out of the pose, which is perfectly fine. I like to think that we have time limits on some poses, and sometimes you have to get out of them, and that's perfectly fine. Okay, so I'm going to back out of this pose, pulling the hips back, bringing both hands up to my thighs so I can lift myself back up, lean back a little bit so I can slide this right foot back, returning to that right angle. Okay, carefully folding, just bending really, so I can bring my hands, both hands down to the ground on the inside of the right foot, so I can just swing that right foot back onto hands and knees. You can sit back into child's pose here if you'd like, okay? That and or cat-cow, okay? Just a little fluid motion here if you want. Inhale to look up or forward, creating the cow, back bend. Exhale, rounding the spine into cat. Child's pose is perfect too, because that'll take some of the pressure off the hands. Take 3 more breaths wherever you are. You might even just be holding in a neutral tabletop position. We'll get ready for the other side. Okay, we're just going to come back up onto the knees, nice and tall in the upper body. Okay, we're going to step the left foot forward. So leaning a little bit to the right knee, if you can hold your balance, just step forward or bring your hand down to the ground or a block so you can step this left foot forward. Starting with the right angle because it's nice support in these right angles. We lean back a little bit, wiggle the toes forward. Okay, coming out of that right angle, hands on thigh. Press gently right in the middle of the thigh, most muscular place right there. Inhale, get nice and tall. We're lifting the torso. So we have mobility in the hips. So when we exhale, we can hinge right there. Maybe this is the end of the pose. Getting out of the back bend here, keeping hands or arms on the thigh right there. Okay, you might start right here. Maybe you have the intention of going a little deeper, but start here, kind of preparing, okay, that deeper stretch. Now we've already warmed up those hip flexors, but we still want to take this gently. All right, I am going to go a little deeper, so I'm going to back out a little bit because I want to continue moving my left foot forward, then lunging. That way I don't put any extra pressure on this front knee. I've got my stacked blocks here to balance right there. Okay, I'm just going to settle in, and here's my pose. And then just find that spot where you can hold, you feel relatively comfortable knowing you can hold the posture for some time, and then just deep breathe. That's all. Your body knows what to do. All you need to do is just kind of hold space, let the sensations arise, pay attention to what's happening. Maybe you'll experience release and opening. Also notice when tension begins to arise. Notice if you're kind of feeling a little nervous or anxious or tense. That might be an indicator of just soften up the body. Come out of the pose a little bit. Give your body that needed relief. That's okay, especially in this practice. We're going to hold a little bit longer. And don't forget, we all have our own personal time limits on poses. If you need to ease out of the pose completely before I do, that's perfectly fine. Yoga is certainly about honoring your own body. I can feel some release. So I'm gonna sink in a little deeper, but if I feel that tension and anxiety begin to arise, I know that I can ease out of it. Okay, let's go ahead and take 3 more breaths as we finish up this round of stretching. Pulling the hips up and back out of this deep lunge. Lifting upper body. Lean back a little bit. Let's slide this left foot back a little bit, getting that preferred support for the body. Folding a little bit here, rounding the back so you can bring your hands to the ground on the inside of your left foot. Put weight in the hands so you can just swing that left foot back to hands and knees. Cat, cow. Just that nice fluid motion through the spine, that rocking of the pelvis. Okay, we're going to do a few things sitting and lying down. Take 2 more breaths. Alrighty. If you're using that blanket, just crawl off the blanket, set it to the side because you may want to use it right away. Once again, we're going to take a seat in the center of the mat. So just take your seat, swing the legs around to the front. Right here. Let's go back to that boat pose. Bend the knees, heels on the ground, feet flexed. Hold on to the knees here. Lift yourself up. Inhale. Exhale, lean back just a little bit. Okay? Just holding just a couple breaths, just bringing back some energy to the torso, front body, ab section here. Okay, we're going to sit up tall again. We're just repeating some poses we've already done. Let's go back to cobbler's pose or bound angle, where we brought the soles of the feet together. Use those blocks on either side for support. Hold on to your shins or ankles. Sit up tall. Inhale. Exhale, hinge forward. Let's hold here for about 5 breaths. Okay, going back to that inner thigh, stretch and release, just complementing the deep lunges we just did. We're going to do one more pose that will emphasize those hip flexors and thighs, front portion of the thighs, and another pose which will kind of mimic this pose that we're in. Let's go ahead and rise up nice and tall. Okay, extending the legs forward a little bit. Let's keep the blocks handy. I'm just going to keep them right here for now. Again, finding the center of your mat. Go ahead and lie down onto your back. Carefully make your way down. We're going to keep the knees bent, feet flat on the ground, like so, and then just lie flat for a few moments. This is just going to give your back and hips some time to relax. Because a lot of the other poses that we just came out of were pretty engaging for your back and hips. And so this should relax them a little bit. We're going to move into a supported bridge pose. That's why we need our blocks or stacked books. When you're ready, and exhale to press feet into the ground, lifting hips up into the air. Slide your blocks or books underneath you to sit on, just like this. So this is our supported bridge pose. It's a mild back bend. It's a supported back bend. You can still kind of relax in this position and just take some deep breaths. Again, it just takes some of that strain away from the front body. That strain that is often created from sitting way too long, okay? A practice you might do on your own is just this pose. If you know that you sit at a desk, sitting in a chair for a long period of time during the day, maybe sometime in the middle of the day or the end of the day, just find your way into this posture, the supported bridge pose, and just lie in a relaxed state. Let the whole front body reopen. So you're welcome to stay here as long as you'd like. Now, I'm going to give you an option for that version of cobbler's pose. We're going to do a reclining cobbler's pose, but we can do it elevated, just like this. So follow me if you want, or you can do this without the blocks, sitting right on the ground. So I'm going to do it on the blocks. I'm going to bring my feet together, so the knees just about touch here, and then just carefully let the knees go out to the side and the soles of my feet touch. Because of the elevation, I'm getting a little bit more of that stretch quality in the inner thighs, and we're still in this back bend, so we're still opening the front portion of the body. If this is too much, you can always come out of the pose. You can also modify. I've got 2 blocks, but I can come down. I can just remove one of the blocks, which is what I'm going to do. And that just makes it a little bit more comfortable. Yeah. Props like yoga blocks really do come in handy. Great support system. Let's just go ahead and take 3 more breaths here. Okay, you're going to bring the knees together. Now you can stay stacked or stay seated on your stacked blocks, or maybe you're on the ground. Either one is fine for this next pose, which is just an inverted posture. It's extending both legs, if you can, up into the air. Now the legs don't have to stay absolutely straight. You can always keep a bend in the knees. And if you need to, you can even use your hands to help support the legs in the air. So in a lot of yoga postures, there's some positions where we go upside down. So this is one of those upside down positions, or a modified version of one. Just something where your feet are in the air above your heart. And then you can add some movement. I like to circle the ankles here, flex the feet, point the toes, create circles. Even a little bicycle pedaling, which gets into all the joints, your knees, your hips, and even your ankles. So some light, slow movements are welcomed, where you can just hold in stillness, legs in the air. Another yoga pose is actually called legs against the wall, okay, which is you just lying flat on the floor with your legs extended up a wall, and that's a yoga pose. So it's another version of being upside down. Let's take 3 more breaths. And when you're ready, just bend your knees so you can place your feet back down onto the ground, make that connection. Lift your hips to remove your blocks if you still have them. Come down to the ground. Let's come back to that relaxed sensation. Just melt into the ground. We're going to finish with a twist. First, hug both knees into chest. Hold on to your shins or knees here with your hands. Maybe some circles here if you want. Adding a little bit more of a massage sensation in your low back. And then a twist. We're going to take both knees first over to the left side as you extend your right arm to the right side. Now, if the legs don't reach the ground completely on that one side, again, bring in those blocks, because you can just place a block or two underneath the legs there, okay, for support, just in case the legs don't touch the ground. And that might feel a bit more conducive for your spine, your hips, your low back, so you can hold the position. Let's go ahead and take 3 more breaths on this side. When you're ready, you can just come back up to center. Hold center for a few seconds. You might just hug the knees in, another little massage if you'd like. Just want to have everything come back to neutral. And then take your twist to the other side. Once again, use your props as you'd like for support as you send your knees over to the right side and extend your left arm to the left side. Take 3 more breaths. And as you're taking these breaths, just notice the quality of your breath. Maybe you are able to take slow, long, deep breaths. And then when you're complete, just come back up to center. Give yourself another hug, little massage. And as you're doing so, just think about the next posture you like to go into. Now, this might be another movement, like another inner thigh stretch or leg extension or twist or back bend. So just adding another active posture if you'd like, or if you feel like you're complete with all of your movements, you can start to move into a relaxed position, which I might call a restorative posture, or all the way into Shavasana. So Shavasana is just extending the legs out in front, arms down by your side, just lying flat on the ground, completely relaxed. But sometimes lying flat on the mat is not all that comfortable. That's why we've got all these great props. And so you might want to place a blanket underneath your head for some softness. Sometimes bending your knees feels much better, at least it does for me, especially for my back. But I've got my bolster, which I'm going to use just to kind of let my legs just kind of drape over the bolster here, places that natural bend in the knees. And this is very relaxing for me. You can even elevate the legs higher, okay? Maybe if you've got a seat of a chair handy, just place your feet up on a chair. So maybe something like this, just to elevate the legs, but in a relaxed state. Whatever you'd like to do. So complete your movements, those added stretches if you've been doing that, and then make your way to stillness in Shavasana or any other restorative position. We're going to hold here for several minutes. Continue to notice your breathing. One goal I like to have for a class like this is to be aware of your breath at the beginning of class. Hopefully it was slow and deep, and you were able to maintain that slow, deep breath throughout the entire practice. If your mind begins to wander, just notice what you might be thinking about. Then take a deep, audible breath. Breathe out that thought so you can come back to this moment. Continue to focus on your breathing. Stay here as long as you'd like. It's very relaxing, comforting, eases the mind and body. So you're welcome to stay here. Even as I start to close our practice and sit up, you're welcome to stay in this relaxed position. When you are ready to move, rather than moving your body too quickly, start with the movement of breath, or bring your awareness back to your deep breathing and just take 5 slow breaths. Beginning to generate warmth and energy in your body. Very subtle movements in your body. And if 5 breaths isn't enough, take another 5 breaths until you feel like movement is really returning to your body. Whenever you feel complete and you can move, take your time, move very slowly. If there's some props that you might be using, maybe you can easily slide them out of the way. Then roll onto either side of your body if you happen to be lying on your back. Hold in this nurturing pose for a moment. Take a breath or two. Still moving in slow motion, you might use your hands and your breath to rise up. Coming to seated, you can always come back to sitting on a blanket, a pillow, or a block. Sitting up nice and tall. Your arms can just rest down by your side, hands in your lap or on your legs. Feel those nice, slow, deep breaths. Wonderful. Let's add one more movement here to end our practice together. We'll inhale, extend your arms out and up into the air. Reach high. Then as you exhale, bring your palms together and down to your heart. And once your hands are at heart center, just sit in stillness, slow, deep breaths. And as we come to the close of our practice together, we bow saying, Namaste.